Welcome to the Produce or Die podcast. This is a show dedicated to video producers and filmmakers who want to achieve massive creative and financial success. So let's roll. Hi everybody, welcome to episode 3. We're going to start with a lovely quote. Create structure so you can have freedom. Map your direction so you can swerve in the lane. We need discipline, guidelines, context, and responsibility early in any endeavour. It's the time to sacrifice, to learn, to observe, to take heed. If and when we get the knowledge of this space, the craft, the people and the plan, then we can let our freak flag fly and create. That is a quote from Matthew McConaughey, of all people. And that's the theme of today's episode, taking on a new endeavour and starting from scratch. The year was 2009. I had 60 grand worth of debt, 5 years of study under my belt, and I had just walked away from a stable but unfulfilling career. I had told myself I wanted to be a filmmaker, but now the time had come and I actually had to do it. While my friends were all starting out in great careers, making good money and saving for their first home, I was back at the start line. The only thing I knew was that I had to follow my passion and I had to create something. So I decided to make a movie. I wasn't a writer, a director, a camera operator, an actor, or an editor, but I was about to become all of these things at the same time. I went out and I bought a second-hand point-and-shoot camera and a very budget tripod for $30. Next, I went to our family bach in the Marlborough Sounds, a very remote but beautiful part of New Zealand. It's so isolated that you can only get there by boat, and as a bonus, there would be no one around. There would be no one around who would have to witness my terrible acting. So what was the film about? The premise was that I was on a cruise ship with my wife, and the ship sunk, she drowned, and I got shipwrecked and had to survive by living off the land. If you're wondering if the plot sounds familiar, yes, it was a direct rip-off of Tom Hanks's film Castaway, although mine was called Treacherous Waters. So the film revolved around my survival and trying to get over the fact that my wife was now gone. So there were scenes where I would try to find crabs under rocks, or I killed a stingray and used it as a hat. And of course there was only one character because I was the only one there, so I would set up the tripod, do the shot, move the tripod, do it again. So once I had finished the film, I edited it together roughly in iMovie. It was weird, a bit shit, but also a little bit brilliant at the same time. I even made an IMDb page for the film, and guess what? It's got a 10-star rating. Yes, that rating was by me, and yes, there's been no other ratings. I loved the film, but of course I was pretty nervous because it was a bit different to what most of the other university grads with master's degrees were doing with their lives. I posted the film on Facebook and it got mixed results. Some people that watched it definitely thought it was a bit weird, and they probably thought I was having some sort of breakdown or midlife crisis. However, the people that got it, i.e. my close friends and a few others, thought it was quite funny, even though it was blatantly amateur and clearly a piss take. The coolest thing from Treacherous Waters was the feedback that others gave me. I got insights into the parts that were working and the parts that needed more work. For example, I learned that people enjoyed my wacky humour, and I could immediately see how I could build on this for the next time. Feedback also told me that I needed to massively improve my technical skills, as well as learn how to tell a more engaging story. In 4 weeks, I had learned heaps, and the next step had been revealed to me. I decided to go to film school. So I knew I didn't want to do any more academic theory type study. I wanted practical experience on how I could tell a story. So I decided to do a short 6-month course in filmmaking. Most of film school I enjoyed, the creative side, the enthusiasm of the tutors that we had, but some of it made me a little bit scared. We learnt that the traditional film industry is very set in its ways. It has certain positions, it has a hierarchy where you have to start at the bottom and work your way up. But deep down, I knew that I never wanted to actually work on a big film set. So I just put these thoughts to the side, and I enjoyed learning about technical skills, camera equipment, framing, shooting, directing, and editing. At the end of the course, the other students went off and started at the bottom as runners, working on people's films and getting internships at production companies. But as for me, I was inspired as ever to get back to telling my own stories, to keep practicing and to keep honing my craft. So, my girlfriend at the time and I decided to travel for 6 months through Central America. And of course, as a budding and passionate filmmaker, I decided to make a travel documentary of our trip. We went to Mexico, Cuba, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Honduras, and Panama. I bought a Canon 7D and a lapel mic, and from day one, I shot every single day. I documented everything. We did piece-to-camera interviews with us at every location we went to. We shared our reflections. We interviewed everyone we could that we met. In hindsight, this was one of the most grueling things I've ever done. Filming every day for 6 months while trying to maintain a relationship and traveling in countries where you don't even speak the language. The only Spanish I knew was "Una cerveza, por favor," one beer please, "Donde está baño?" Where is the bathroom? Or "TNA Wi-Fi," do you have Wi-Fi? From 6 months of consistent filming, I learned so much. The great thing about that type of filmmaking is that you always have to be versatile, and during this trip I discovered another one of my loves, and that is natural moments that play out on camera. And to this day I always prioritize story over production value. If something crazy happens but it's not a clean shot, I'd much rather use that than have something that's framed perfectly but it doesn't feel as natural. So at the end of the trip, I edited the videos together and put them on YouTube. People seemed to enjoy them, and once again I felt proud because my content had improved massively. And although I hadn't made a single dollar off my craft yet, that was soon to change. So what did I learn in my first year of going into my craft and starting from scratch? I learned that you have to put the hammer down, you have to focus on making your own content and slowly but constantly improve. And the key to constantly improving is to focus on the process, not the result. I knew I wasn't going to make a masterpiece with Treacherous Waters or my travel series, but I focused on the process and I enjoyed the craft. I enjoyed making mistakes. If I had worried too much about the outcome and worrying what people would think about it and whether it was going to be any good, I would have been paralyzed and made absolutely no progress whatsoever. I see this every single day. People with massive dreams and aspirations, but they're too scared to make the first move in case they fail. The fact is, you gotta fail hard and you gotta fail fast. And taking a risk and knowing that you're going to make something slightly shit, but still moving forward, knowing that you're going to improve for the next one, is a very brave place to be. So that was my first year of filmmaking. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you in the next one. If you've enjoyed this episode, or you want to give me any feedback, hit me up on Instagram at mearle.nz. Laters.